we played pinochle on that ship like 5-6 hours a day. We went through decks of cards. We had to sit on the deck and we're playing with them and they get dirty. And before you know it, deck of cards would be about that thick from the dirt. We'd throw it over the side and start a new one. I was assigned with a couple other guys with a big chainsaw to cut some 6x8 cross pieces. They needed, I don't know, 200-300 of them. So we had these long 6x8s. We were to cut them to, I don't remember what the length was, but it was very specific. And we had an officer verify that we cut the first one, that's the right size. So we were cutting these things and we cut, I estimated we had a pile there built up. They hadn't started putting them up on a bridge yet, probably 100, 150. When they first took a load of them up on a bridge and put them where they were supposed to go, they were supposed to be cross pieces from one steel I-beam to another. And they put the first one in and it just fell right through.
No, they were all cut to the wrong size?
They were all 11 inches short.
Oh no.
And oh my God, you heard screaming and hollering. And this officer, you stupid, you know, whatnot. We said, there's the one you okayed. We took the tape measure, measured it, and it was the exact specification it was supposed to be. Nobody could figure out why it was wrong. Suddenly, somebody gets a bright idea. They checked the tape we were using. It was not a steel, it was a 100-foot tape, but it wasn't a steel one, it was the cloth.
Oh, and it shrank.
And something had happened to the first foot of it, and somebody cut a foot off the damn thing.
Oh no.
So that immediately caused a supply to get rid of all the cloth tapes they had. There's no more cloth tapes, got to be metal tapes. So we had a lot of firewood then. That was the only good thing about it. That since I put in so much work working on this bridge, when we laid the last I-beam across it, I was going to be the first person to cross it. That was covered with snow and ice, but I ran across this I-beam all the way to the other side. And standing at the other side was our commanding officer. And his exact words to me, "What the hell do you think you were doing?" And I said, "Sir, I wanted to be the first one across this bridge so you would name it after me." He said, "You turn right around and go back to where you came from. And if your ass falls off of it, we will name it posthumously after you." Oh, I had to go back across the 9-inch I-beam.
All the way across it, huh?
All the way across it. It was about, I don't know, 300 feet long, something like that. That was the bridge you watch on. And by then the river was frozen over and I'd go walk up and down the river watching the ice fishermen. And their big quarry in the river were eels. And they had these long poles. They were 25 feet long, I guess. And on the end of them, they had a big hook. And the hook had all kinds of barbs on it. And they would poke that down into the sand at the bottom of the river and wiggle it around and then pull it up. And sometimes they'd have 10, 12 eels on there, throw them in a bucket, take them home.
Huh.
And then I watched them put a net in the river under the ice. They chopped a hole in the ice, another hole in the ice, and they shove a pole and a rope to that other hole and pull it till they made a big circle, maybe 50, 60 feet in diameter. With it dragged this net, that whole thing, and then cut a great big hole next to shore and pull the thing in it. Lots of fish, all kinds of fish. We had a group of ROK soldiers, Republic of Korea soldiers, attached to our unit, and their officers would have inspections to, you know, see if people are taking care of their uniforms, wearing them correctly and that, just like they did to us. But the only difference was in the American Army, usually the platoon commander And the first sergeant would walk down a row of guys and he'd make notes, you know, this guy's got a dirty t-shirt on, or you're not wearing the boots, you're wearing gym shoes or something. And then write a note, okay? And then follow up, make sure the guy's changed. Whereas these Koreans, they line up, the commander would walk along and look at a guy, and he's got a dirty t-shirt, bam, he'd punch him, knock him right down on his ass.
Really?
Yep. They didn't mess around at all. He'd whack them. And they'd pick themselves up and, you know, smile and stand there. And
Wow.
but they weren't, you never saw the same guy there with a dirty t-shirt or whatever. They were always real sharp. And they were good soldiers. They were good workers. When we were building the hospital for hemorrhagic fever, we had a bunch of civilian carpenters that working with us building this building, which was nothing but, you know, 2x4s and corrugated metal. But anyway, the deal was these workers, if a cutoff of 2x4 was less than 12 inches long, they could keep it, take it home and use it for firewood or whatever they wanted. And also bent nails, they could go around, pick up the bent nails and take them home also. So we're watching these guys leave the job site and saying, Jesus, every guy's walking out of here with a bundle of little 2x4s, you know, 10, 11 inches long. I said, we don't use that many 2x4s in a day. So the following day, we set up some surveillance, and here they had a crew, I think it was 3 guys, that were hidden behind some buildings and some big boulders and that. And all they did all day long was take 12 and 18 and 20-foot 2x4s and cut them
down into
cut them
11
down
inch
to
and 10
10,
inch.
11 inches, yep. So everybody had a bundle of 2x4s to take home. And behind another thing, they had some guys that were bending nails all day.
So they could take those home too.
Yeah, they could take them all home, yep. Much like I think I mentioned to you, the guys that were emptying the bags of cement, where they'd hold a handful of cement in each corner.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were good at that. You could change clothes as many times as you wanted, as many clean clothes as you had, you could change if you wanted, but there was no way to get clean ones then. So we took a 55-gallon drum, cut it in half, put it on some boulders, took some of the supply of firewood we had, made a big fire in it, got the water boiling. We all donated whatever soap we had, bars of soap and that, threw it in there and got it boiling and threw our dirty clothes in there to wash them. We washed them and then we took them down, walked out on the ice to where the river was still running and rinsed them and took them back to the tent where we hung them up, but they never dried because while we were out of the tents working all day, there was no heat in the tents, so they'd freeze up. And then at night, when we were in the tents and there was a little heat, they would get all wet again, and the next day freeze and get. So in the weeks, I think there were probably about 2 or 3 weeks after that we were still there. They were still wet when we were ready to leave. We didn't have a shower probably for, I don't know, close to a month. And you'd have to get up in the morning and get the fire going and thaw out the water so you could brush your teeth. And then you'd walk over to the mess hall or the mess tent, whatever you want to call it, get something to eat. If that was scrambled eggs or fried eggs or that, by the time you got back to your tent to eat it, it was all solidified, the grease or anything, and you'd have to heat it up on your little stove again. If it was corn flakes or something like that with milk on it, that'd be frozen solid. You'd have to thaw that out before you could eat it. Even though I tried to do everything I possibly could to keep me there till the very last minute so they'd have to fly me home. I was a sergeant at the time, and I worked at the replacement depot, volunteered. I emptied waste baskets, I did filing work, I washed windows, I swept floors, I did everything I possibly could because the word was out that if you worked for these people, volunteered to work for them, they would see to it that they kept you if you were good at what you were doing, and they'd keep you till the very last minute and then put you on a plane and fly you home instead of the ship. It didn't work. They put you on the ship, and then you can't. They take all your money away from you. You can't have any money because we used Army script while you were over there. You couldn't have any genuine U.S. money. And once the ship was out to sea, they gave us genuine American money. And I spent most of the trip home playing pinochle. We sat on the deck and played pinochle, a bunch of us. In January of 1953, I was told that I was going to get 5 days leave in Japan. And that was a great thing because about 6 weeks before that, I got involved in a crap game in which I won $800, which I had locked up in a company safe. So I said, oh, that's great. So I got my money. We flew over to Osaka, Japan in a C-119, what they call the flying boxcar. It was a freight plane, and the back end of it would lift up totally, so a truck could drive right inside. A 2.5-ton truck could drive right inside it. And we sat on benches along the side. But anyway, we flew over there to Osaka, and 3 other guys and I decided we didn't want to spend our 5 days in Osaka because Osaka was kind of a crummy town, an industrial town that had been damaged a lot by the war. So we took a bus to Kyoto, Japan, which was the ancient capital of Japan, and it was known as the City of Temples, and it was never touched by the war. Not a bomb was ever dropped on it. So it was quite a nice place. We stayed in the finest hotel in town, and we ate like kings of old. And I took my $800 and I found this real nice gift shop, and I went in there and I spent the whole $800, every penny of it, and I bought presents for my family. I bought my dad and my brother and my brother-in-laws fine bamboo fly rods. I bought my mother a 108-piece set of real good china, which I have today. My mother gave it to my wife. I bought my dad binoculars. I bought my sisters kimonos and tea sets and just all kinds of stuff. I just kept buying until my money was gone. And you could buy a lot with $800 in Japan in those days. And then I made a deal with the owner of the shop. He was going to crate it all up and ship it to my parents' home. And he charged me a small fee for the crating and the shipping. He says, I don't know what the shipping will cost, but he says, I'll do it for a very minimal amount. But anyway, shipped it all home. Everything got there in perfect shape. One coffee cup had a handle broken off. That was it. But everything else was perfect. So now we're ready to leave Kyoto and go back to Osaka because it's time to go back to Korea. So we decided we wanted to go in class. We wanted to go in real style. We told the guy at the hotel, we want to go in a cab, but we want a brand spanking new 1953 car that was a cab. And he says, I'll see what I can do. He found a guy with a 1953 Ford Fairlane, brand new. It had 200 miles on it. And he agreed to take us back to Osaka. So we did. We went back to Osaka. We checked in, and after I was through checking in, I discovered my camera was gone. Oh my God, I must have left it in the hotel. So I finally got the use of a phone, called the hotel, and the manager at the hotel said, no, you did not leave it here at the hotel. You left it in the cab. The cab driver came all the way back here. He was cleaning out his cab, and he discovered it. And he said, right now, he is en route back to Kyoto to bring you your camera. So we immediately rushed, my buddies and I rushed down to the main gate. They notified the MPs that this guy was coming with the camera. We got down there, and we told them, watch for this guy in this new 1953 Ford Fairlane. He's coming with a camera. The guy says, no, he's not coming. He was here about 10 minutes ago. This guy drove all the way back from Osaka to Kyoto, dropped off the camera and took off and went back. Never waited for a tip or a thank you or anything. So I got my camera back.